All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we recap everything that happened on this Saturday before Super Bowl Sunday. And of course, San Francisco, or I should say Santa Clara, the site of Super Bowl 60. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they will soon open in Petaluma in 2026. Also, thanks to Sleeper, 49er football season, all season presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. One-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chat, season-long leagues, and of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. Use promo code Larry. They will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, let's hit some of these topics. Very interesting headlines today. One, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN says the 49ers are expected to check in on Maxx Crosby. What does that mean? Does that mean the Niners are going to get Maxx Crosby? Probably not. I think the price tag on Maxx Crosby is going to be exorbitant. Whatever the price tag is for everybody else, Mark Davis for sure will make it more expensive for the Niners. So I would not expect Maxx Crosby to be a 49er, but it is interesting they will check in on him. I don't think the 49ers are in a position for any shortcuts anymore. They've taken a few. It hasn't worked out. They now need to actually go draft well. CMC won the Bart Star Award for outstanding service on and off the field, voted on by the players. So way to go, CMC. That's a big one for Christian. Diana Rossini is reporting that the 49ers are not looking to trade Mac Jones, that their preference is to keep Purdy and Jones for 2026. Now, what does this mean? I just think this means that the Niners have asked for a very high price and nobody wants to meet it right now. And they're not going to give them away, and nor should they. You got to remember this. I mean, Mac Jones is probably worth, if you said what's his worth, probably a third-round pick. But he's also the second best quarterback on the market, and he might be the best veteran quarterback on the market. So, and there's always a lot of needy teams. So as far as the laws of supply and demand, the Niners should ask for a lot. What's a lot? I would say 2 day 2 picks, maybe over the next 2 drafts. Maybe a significant player, a starter, and a second or third round pick in this year's draft, something like that. I bet you they're asking prices high, and it should be high. They have Mac Jones, a quarterback that they don't necessarily need, and they have him under contract this year for $7 million. So there's no reason for them to give that up. They get the best backup quarterback there is. Heck, you could argue without Mac Jones, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan would be in a much, much different situation than they are right now. They'd feel a lot more pressure if it wasn't for Mac Jones. So they're not going to give away Mac Jones, nor should they. And that doesn't mean they're not going to move him. I didn't say that. I think they will move him. I think he wants to be moved. I think eventually they'll move him. But they're going to get a good price for him because you don't like it? Go draft Drew Aller. You don't like it? Go draft Nussmeier. You don't like it? Go sign Joe Flacco. Go try your hand in the free agent market. So the Niners can drive a hard bargain and just wait. And if nobody comes back, then so be it. You go into next year with a $7 million backup quarterback that can win games. That's like the bad news. As far as Super Bowl 60, the odds are out on the Super Bowl MVPs. And the favorite is Sam Darnold at plus 115. Drake May is the second choice at plus 320. JSN is the third choice at plus 550. Kenneth Walker, the man they call K9, is the next choice. He is at plus, 850, I believe. So, it's hard to say who's going to be the MVP of this game. I would say I like the Stephon Diggs number. You can get plus 4,500 on Stephon Diggs. And, this game is going to be won because of explosives. And I think Diggs is capable of getting those explosive plays and making those explosive plays. It wouldn't shock me if he had 4 or 5 catches for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns, and winds up being the Super Bowl MVP. So I like Stephon Diggs at plus 4,500, probably the most of any of the ones that aren't in the top. Obviously the Darnold pick, if you think Seattle's going to win the game, that's highly likely. JSN could have a 100-yard day and show that he's the best receiver in pro football. That could give him the MVP. But I like Stephon Diggs as a, kind of off the radar pick. And now you have to think New England's going to potentially win the game. If you don't, then maybe you don't go Stephon Diggs. Couple other notes. Kendrick Bourne wants to re-sign with the Niners. He made that perfectly clear. Jed York did an interesting interview with a guy named Alex Sherman. And we're going to play 2 cuts. The first one is, the guy really pressed Jed on, hey, you fired Harbaugh and you kept Balky, and then eventually you found Shanahan, but wasn't that, can you say that was a mistake? And it's such a great question because it's like almost out of the mouth of a child, because the people who cover the team locally know that Jed and Harbaugh's relationship went south. Harbaugh showed Jed very little respect, and so Balky was just he still had a relationship with Jed. This was all about the eroding of Harbaugh's relationship with Jed and Parag, which is why they got rid of Harbaugh. But I just love this back and forth here. Here's Jed York with this interviewer, Alex Sherman, refusing to acknowledge that it was a mistake to fire Jim Harbaugh and keep Trent Baalke. It's great stuff. All right, there you go. A lot of back and forth. I mean, the bottom line is, Jed and Kyle have a better relationship than Jed and Jim ever had. And that's really why, Kyle's still a good fit. And, Jed just, the relationship with Harbaugh just went south. That was really it. Where Shanahan is probably a little bit easier to deal with than Jim Harbaugh. Let's hear one more from Jed with Sherman. It was really a pretty good one. This was Jed talking about how, the Niners were 30th in free agent spending this year. New England was number 1. Seattle was number 3. The Niners spent money in other areas, but he was asked about, hey, are you going to spend money on free agents this year? And here's what Jed had to say. So there you go. You have Jed basically saying, hey, look, if there's a difference maker out there, we'll go after him. It's not that we don't like free agents. It's just we don't like these middling free agents. So they want to shop off the top shelf. Here are the top 12 free agents. If the Niners really do want to, get better in free agency, but they don't want to mess around with the little people in free agency, and they only want true difference makers, I don't know. I mean, they signed Luke Farrell last year. I don't know that he was a big difference maker, but whatever. Here are the 12 difference makers. Trey Hendrickson. You want a difference-making defensive end? He would make a difference opposite Nick Bosa. Jalen Phillips, 26 years old. He would make a huge difference opposite Nick Bosa. You want a difference maker? Jalen Phillips and Nick Bosa off the edges would make a difference. Tyler Linderbaum, a 26-year-old 3-time Pro Bowl center. If you don't love what you're getting out of Jake Brendel, and maybe you do love what you're getting out of Jake Brendel, but if you don't, Linderbaum's right there, and he's in his prime, and you could get him right now. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler. Alec Pierce, wide receiver from the Indianapolis Colts. God knows the Niners need a receiver in the worst way. No Debo, no Ayuk. Pearsall's hurt. JJ's walking. They have no receiving core to speak of. Alec Pierce, you're going to have to pay him, but he's 25 years old. He's a deep threat. He's got size. He's got production. That's a big time player. That's a difference maker. Breece Hall, running back, former Iowa State teammate of Brock Purdy. He's in the prime of his career at 24. He's got speed, to get to the outside, which is a perfect outside zone runner kind of a feel or kind of a skill set that he has, and he's in his prime. And you want to bring somebody in to make Christian a little bit more of a jack of all trades. Breece Hall, he's a difference maker. Quay Walker, the linebacker for Green Bay, is 25, 26 years old. Odafe Owe, the defensive end from the Chargers, could make a difference opposite Nick Bosa. Tariq Woolen, is a big corner who's 26 years old, who's pretty dominant. When he's really looking his best, he can be a very dominating physical presence. If you don't like him, how about Alontae Taylor, the cornerback for the Saints? He's 27. He can play nickel. He can play outside. He's a big-time talent. Played at Tennessee. Terrific player. How about Devin Lloyd? God knows you need a linebacking core. You have no linebackers to speak of. Lloyd is 27, coming into his own. Mike Evans, if you want a proven wide receiver, he's a proven guy for sure. How about Kyle Pitts? George Kittle's done for the year. Pitts is 26, coming into his own. He's an all-world player. So there you go. If the 49ers really, we'll find out in the coming weeks. Is it that they don't want to spend money on free agents, or is it that they only want a difference maker free agent? Well, I just gave you 12 difference maker free agents right there, and we'll find out in the first week in March exactly what their mindset truly is. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Sleeper for sponsoring the Krug Show all season long. Thanks to you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.